Hi everybody, I'm Tara from Crooked Row, and today we're going to talk a little bit about pollination. Pollination and pollinators are so vitally important. About a third of our crops are propagated and fruited by pollinators. And so if a third of our crops went away, we'd all be in trouble. It's actually, the numbers are actually a little more even drastic than that. We know because we have raised honeybees. And when you raise bees, you actually start looking into the whole pollination process, and it's actually a lot more severe than you think it would be. But I realized a few years ago we had a drastic drop on the farm with honeybees, and not just honeybees, I mean any kind of bee. We just noticed that there was just not a lot of pollination occurring. We would usually have about 30 to 45 butternut squash that we would harvest each year. And that year was a terrible year, and I think we only got like 8 squash. And I think the largest reason is because we had such a lack of pollinators. Okay, so we are gonna get started. This is just the start that we are doing to draw in our pollinators. So I am starting, we're about 12 weeks out still from our last frost. And our last frost date, I think it's April 23rd this year. So we're in the second week of February, and I'm gonna go ahead. It's so warm here. The groundhog did not see his shadow. So I'm gonna go ahead, and it's like 80 degrees right now well, actually it's 79.5 degrees in this greenhouse right now. So we're gonna go ahead and start trying to plant out things like Lisianthus and Salvia. I'm doing an annual Salvia, it's Victoria Blue. Salvia, Alyssum, Hyssop, Veronica, not Victoria, Veronica. These flowers really draw in the pollinators. Last year, we had pollinators come to our hyssop like in gangbusters. I mean, I have never seen flowers draw that many pollinators before. And actually, some things draw pollinators more than others, in a weird way. So like the hyssop pulled in butterflies like I have never seen before. It had bees too, like the big fat bumbles. It had those. And Alyssum tends to draw in like sweat bees and like some tiny wasps, but these are good things. These are all things that some of these wasps actually are fantastic to keep away other pests. So it really behooves you to plant flowers in your garden. It's beneficial to the plants. It's beneficial to the pollinators, and I'm not a kind of person who like joins bandwagons and stuff very much, but since we raised bees, you do see how critical bees and pollinators are to our gardens, our crops, you know, eating in general. And so many of the types of crops that we have will literally go away if it's not pollinated. If you can't get the animal or the insect to get pollen on them and take it to the female portion of that flower, we're in trouble. I mean, and so I would also suggest planting, especially if you're starting from seed. Now, if you're buying plants, it can be a little difficult to do this. This is why I'm putting this video out now, so that you can start your stuff from seed. It really helps if you can take your plant plenty of them from seed, start plenty of them from seed so that you can plant a good section, because you'll notice, you know, bees, moths, butterflies, they kind of like to, you know, take a little nip from all over. And so if they can do that kind of in a cluster, I think that helps actually bring them in even more. So start looking for varieties that really pull that in. And so like the sweet alyssum, I tend to plant those a lot with my strawberries. Borage is a really good one too. Now this last year, for whatever reason, I feel like our borage didn't pull them in, but they typically do. But you can start so many different types of flowers, and not only do they beautify your space, but it is so beneficial to pull into those insects. So let's get started on planting up Lisianthus and the salvia. Okay, I'm going to add water. Actually, I am starting with Jiffy Natural and Organic Seed Starting Mix. And I just put it in a dirty 5-gallon bucket. Not really dirty, it's just, I've used it for seed starting mix before. And then I'm gonna put a good amount of water in there. And then I'm going to grab something to stir with. I don't know where a trowel is, so I'm just gonna use this. It's so fluffy, it doesn't really matter anyway. And that's gonna need a lot more. Because that's a little too damp, I'm gonna go ahead and add a little bit more seed starting mix. Okay, so for those of you that are just getting started, seed trays, I'm going to show the seed trays actually. Seed trays are what you want to get started, especially if you're doing things indoors. You want to see what's going to pop up, and then you can always upgrade it to a bigger pot. But these, so I have experimented with Garden Supply. Garden Supply are very hardy trays. Okay, these are the Garden Supply trays. They are very sturdy. I mean, these are a couple years old now and just very, very sturdy. I haven't washed them, but they've just been in storage. And so these are extraordinarily sturdy, but they come with a price tag. I'm not saying they're not worth it, but when you don't have the money to spend, you're going to want to look for ones. So I've had these as long as I've had the Gardener Supply ones. These are a 70 cell seed starting tray. You get 5 of them for $30. So they're like $6 a piece. I absolutely love the lids. Let me show you the lid. The lids are absolutely perfect, and they have these little things on them for breathing. Sometimes it just gets too humid in there and it actually starts to drip. And so you can open those up to let a little air in, and then if too much is happening, you can close them halfway, you can close them all the way. They are just, these are very, for the money, like one Garden Supply tray, I think, is $25. I'll double check that. This is $31 for 5, and it's a 70 cell. They're not as sturdy. You can see, like, me bend that. You can't bend the Gardener Supply ones. So again, if you have money to spend, the Gardener Supply is worth it. These are, if you don't, and I did not, so we bought this 5-pack, and I'll put a link in the comments to these and the Gardener Supply ones, and you can go ahead and purchase whichever one is best for your gardening needs. So I have 2 trays, 2 70 cell trays, and one of these is going to be for the salvia and the Lisianthus, and I'm actually going to go ahead and get my Tango celery into this tray. So I'm just going to go ahead and get that started. Again, I love working with Berlin seeds because they have the little tags. That is so helpful. And I just want to show you how tiny these Lisianthus seeds are. So tiny, they put them in a vial. So wow. There is exactly 15 seeds in here. So I'm going to plant one in every hole. I know most people do too, but there's so few of these that I need all the plants I can get. I don't want to thin any out. Okay, light is needed for germination for my tango celery. So I'm going to kind of surface sow those and just put a little bit of seed starting mix on the top of them and the lisianthus. I mean, just a little bit, because again, light is needed. So I'm gonna go ahead and do the tango celery with these two now, and let's get started. I don't know if you can see this or not, but I just put these lids on. Sorry for my dirty hands from the dirt. And there's already condensation starting in here. That's kind of cool. Well, there you have it. We have 2 trays started. I'm so excited. I'm so excited to get my garden started this year. But I also wanted to point out, if you haven't even gotten your seeds yet, go ahead and just put in a small order to get some of your flowers and plants that are going to be great for those early pollinators. We've got to have our bees you know, well fed as soon as spring starts. I know that a lot of the trees have blossoms and things like that come out, but if we can actually have some little things out for them, then, you know, our cool weather crops are gonna get really, really pollinated well. Some of them don't need it, like the biennials, some of those don't need it, but anywho, I think that that it's exciting when we start seed starting, and I know it's like still like 10 weeks out for us, but hey, I mean, the only thing that'll happen is that I have to take care of them a little bit longer, and if I have to do that, then I'll bring you guys along and show you what I'm doing to kind of keep them in check. But so I'm also going to put out a video where I'm going to make suggestions to start things like lists of pollinating plants, so that, especially perennials, because then those come back year after year, and you can kind of strategically place those around your garden. I mean, it's wonderful to get your annuals and to do that, but it's also pretty great to have things just like already set up. I know I have some hyssop that is a perennial. I've got lisianthus, no, not lisianthus, liatris, butterfly weed. I have bee balm, lemon balm, and something else that all attract in the pollinators. Of course, I'm gonna, in like the next few weeks or maybe the next month, I'm also gonna have an elderberry video. If you don't have an elderberry bush, get one, because they attract so many pollinators and the flowers smell so good. I mean, I just love elderberry bushes. I would have them all over if I could, but they kind of, you do have to keep them in check. So anyway, look for in the coming weeks some videos on suggestions to get certain perennials and annuals started to draw in those pollinators. So remember, if we can start our pollinating plants from seed, anybody can. Thanks. Bye.